Okay, I got coloring pencils. Like I was saying earlier, I wanted to get so I could work on this book. Instead, we read a book that was a bit boring. I also got this from my sister. Have you ever had a gold pack of chewing gum? I don't know. I like these. They're nice. You can get some big pieces. They're all a bunch of tiny pieces too. It feels good. Anyway, let's put you here. I got the primary and secondary colors here, just to color that a second. Just to have the basics. If we need more colors than that down the road, I have plenty of colors, as you saw a second ago. I also put my little yellow face on an old PlayStation 2 memory card. And what's that? What? Magic. And then it's what? No, I have two of them. I'm not a magician. I'm also not a doctor. Let it be known. I did take school regarding anatomy and physiology, and it was very fun. It's what I wanted to do. And so, I'm just going to turn to this page over here. This caught my attention. Originally, I wanted to do biceps, because that's like one of the most commonly known muscles, and we could color that in and everything, but unfortunately, that page has already been colored in and stuff. Not very dark, so maybe I can just color over it, but yeah, figured we could start somewhere else, somewhere new. And I found this, the subscapularis, and I thought, hey, this was kind of tricky to understand at first. Maybe I could try to make this a little easier by explaining how the whole arm bone structure works. So, when we're kids and we see skeletons on TV and stuff, they're kind of like, you know, there's the skull, and then the spine, right? And then legs coming from that on both sides. You know, something very generic and simple like that. Same thing with the arms. And yeah, there we go. Something like that. That's not very accurate, obviously. Like, what's this whole part? We know that this is the shoulder blade, as we can see here, but it's actually called the scapula here. Yep, an anatomical term for shoulder blade is scapula. Let it be known. And today we are going to talk about the subscapularis and how it is a possibility. Jesus, this thing. How it is a possibility and why it is there in our body. Very useful. Should be very thankful for it. So, I'm going to explain first how the arm works, right? Starting from the fingers, we got three, that's not very big at all, but three segments to each finger, the top segment, the mid segment, and the lower segment. And then we have the segment of bone that is still that finger, technically, that attaches to the many little bones that are in our wrist. And we'll get to names and numbers eventually, but just so we're clear, this is kind of how a hand skeleton looks without detail. And of course there's the thumb piece, which has one less. I'm popping those actually right now. Oh, that's a good example. So I could take this top portion of my thumb and pop this connected joint. Hope you heard that. Then I'll take this connected portion and pop that. Urgh, barely got that. And then I'll take the joint that's all the way down here connected to the many little pieces of the wrist, and I'm going to pop that. And that's kind of shows that it doesn't just end here, it doesn't just end there, it comes all the way down here. And you can even feel them around. You feel all those bumps on your hands. Some of those are tendons, which are attachments of muscle, and some of those are bones. We'll get to that eventually. Anyway, now that we know that's not just a big circle with lines coming out, that it's actually many lines attached to many little pieces that vary in shapes and sizes. This attaches to your wrist, which is actually a bone in itself. Again, we'll get the names later. I just want to explain where this is, what this muscle is, and where it is. So, this is your forearm. The bigger bone in your forearm from your wrist to your elbow. And, oh, hold on a second. Yeah. Considering this is the thumb here, thumb, there is actually that tinier bone as well off this way. So I'm going to adapt that line. And so you see here, the tinier bone actually attaches to the wrist as well. Both of these forearm bones attach to the wrist. As we get to the elbow, however, the bigger bone, which is on the outer side of your arm, like if my thumb is facing this way, and you're just flat like that, the bigger bone is on the outer side. The smaller bone is here. And, yeah. The outer bone, is actually a bit bigger at its base, and that's where this, what was that sound? Sorry, I thought I heard someone come in. That is where the tinier bone attaches. And this area, what was I saying? That door distracted me. Okay, so the skinnier arm bone and the thicker arm bone both attached to the wrist, but when it comes up the arm, this is the elbow now, by the way. Elbow. The thicker bone on the outer side is actually the only thing that's attached to what's going to be our next bone, which will be the first bone that looks like a stereotypical bone in cartoons. Alright? While the skinnier one attaches to the thicker one at its base. When we turn our arms inwards and outwards like that, the segment at our wrist is turning completely, of course, but the segment over here is actually the bigger portion is staying completely still, while the little portion on top is turning by itself. We're going to attach that to the brachialis, which is actually this bone up here that we see, right? We have all these colors, we're only using green. We get to the brachialis here with red. This goes up until it has kind of a club looking thing Probably not that exact size, but it does have that little portion here. When you pop your arm out of its socket, this is the ball that goes into the socket itself. Now the socket it goes into isn't just the torso or that little rib cage on cartoons. It is in fact the rest of our arm, which I will explain over here. It's that lovely triangle we call the scapula, the shoulder blade, better known as the scapula. Now here's a rough drawing of it. It is a triangle, and the triangle is actually facing backwards. This is what I was drawing. I didn't mean to make it so bad though. There we go. So what's happening here is, let me see if I can actually outline it. The scapula's coming like this, but it's got that special socket right over here, right? And that's where the this bone connects. You should let me know if I am allowed to use anatomical terms. I assume if you're watching this, you either love me or you don't know anything about anatomy and you want someone casual to talk to about it. People can throw big words at you. It kind of sucks. So, this is your arm bone. It connects to the socket, which is your shoulder blade. That is why your shoulder blade is there. This piece connects to this. And if you see over here, just okay, cool. So it's the front. This is the same as this. There's also the clavicle, or the collarbone, as normies would call it. Let's go ahead and get some orange up in here. Now the shoulder, what is it called again? I mean, I can call it clavicle, and I think I will have to call it clavicle because I can't remember. Collarbone! Yeah, so the collarbone helps attach it to the center of the chest, which is the rib cage. Here, we got the ribs, which will be orange, and this centerpiece, which we'll get to in another episode. This blue attaches to the orange. But over here, it attaches to the scapula, or shoulder blade, by itself. That way it can move up and down, like so, allowing you to shrug your shoulders. It allows the mobility to shrug your shoulders. Muscles help you shrug your shoulders, to be specific. And, yeah, so with that in mind, we can understand that the arm doesn't just consist of the hand, forearm, and this piece, but it has the hand, the wrist, the forearm, this piece. It's the brachialis, but I don't know what, the upper arm, I guess, and the shoulder blade, otherwise known as, you got it, the scapula, and also the collarbone known as the clavicle. So the whole arm kind of is a stick attached to a stick, which is then attached to some sort of clamp. You see the the collarbone reaches in the front of a person, right? And the shoulder blade reaches in the back. So it kind of grabs hold of the rib cage. See? There are some ribs cut out here, as you can see. That is on purpose, so that you can see the inner side of this hand thing. Like, let's say that this were the scapula, this were the collarbone, kind of wrapping like that. It's showing you the inside, not just your back, but the inside, and that's what this muscle is. It's called subscapularis because it's between your shoulder blade and your back. There is muscle back there. It's weird, and it gets tight on a lot of people. And so I want to explain what this was. This gave me a lot of trouble when I was in school. I don't know if I made it sound any better. But this muscle basically is between the back of your rib cage and your shoulder blade. So if you stick your hand in between there on someone, not too hard, gently, right? It might be tough as well because there are surrounding muscles which make it a little tough to get in there. But you'll know that there are muscles on the inside of this bone, and this bone is a very crucial piece of your arm. So, now you know, the shoulder blade is actually a piece of your arm. Now one can argue everything that the human is connected and they're right, they're also mean. This is important to know, especially when you hurt yourself. Let's say you were playing a sport and suddenly your arm hurt. It wasn't necessarily any pain in this portion, nor was it any pain in this portion, but more so higher. You knew when you moved your arm, it hurt the most, like shrugged your shoulders. It could be something to do with your shoulder blade or your collarbone. I've been going for 17 minutes, and we didn't really color anything, we just kind of drew. I hope this helped someone. If not, I hope I kept someone company. And yeah. Thank you for being here. I'm going to start doing things like this a little more, simply because I'm not playing a lot of video games. And I feel like this series is gonna drop like a dead fly as soon as the Crash Team Racing comes out. But we'll cross that road when we get there. So let me know if there's anything specifically you want to work on or any questions you had. I do have the answers here, not opinion based. So if you're genuinely curious about something and you for some reason don't want to go to Google, or you don't trust Google or Wikipedia, or you can't find a good site that just makes sense, ask me directly and I will take you directly to wherever you need to go. Like, how many teeth does the average human have? What the heck is this muscle here, right? I know what it is. And if you want to know, I'd like to help you. That Adam's apple that people have, it's called the hyoid. Right here. The hyoid bone. And everyone has it. Not just guys. It's crazy, huh? It's more visible in guys. Anyway. Oh, you want to learn about the butt? I'm going to tell you about the gluteus maximus. The gluteus minus. Did you know there were biceps on your leg? Biceps femoris? Anyway, just talk to me. If you have a very specific question and you don't think you can find the answer online, just ask me. I'll do another live stream so we can talk directly. Again, I'm not a doctor, but we can at least talk about it with an actual book that has actual facts about actual anatomy and physiology. So, with that being said, I'm hoping to make these episodes a little shorter than 20 minutes. If not, then, well, too bad for that, right? And until next time, you know, I don't have a catchphrase to leave, so I'm gonna sit here. All right.